Hey everybody, welcome to Forgetting Walls. We had a few technical difficulties this week, which requires us to give you this impromptu intro. Justin's power went out in his house in the middle of recording, so you may sound a little funny. Come about 58 minutes. But anyways, we just really want to remind you of our message line that we have up and running. The number for the message line is 641-715-3900. The extension number is 254-075. We would love for you to give us a call, give us a shout out, give us a comment, or share your story. And now, we just want you to enjoy the show. Hey everybody, this is Forgetting Walls. I'm Keith.
And I'm Justin. And today we have a very special guest. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kelsi. Ooh,
Yeah, we're fancy up in here.
Yes, we have a new soundboard so Keith can play. The only problem is I only have like 7 sounds loaded. And definitely 2 of them I can only use, or 3 of them I can only use once during the show for it to make sense. But anyways.
That'll change soon.
Yeah, this has been a strange week, just in recording in of itself. So bear with us. Remember, we're not professional podcasters. We're just a couple of random dudes trying to do something.
What are you talking about? Of course we are.
And a female.
Well, you're just
female this week, yeah.
Yeah, female this week. But again, we're just 2 random dudes. Hence the word two.
Oh, I missed that one.
Yeah. So, anyways, this week we do have a special guest on our show. Kelsi is with us, and we will be discussing maybe a topic that will benefit our goal in bridging the gap and closing the isolation, talking about dating outside of your faith, or cross-religious dating, or inter-religious dating, or maybe not religious dating at all. But we're gonna kind of talk about that today. Get into maybe some scenarios that I think there are people getting into. We'll talk about that in our meat and potatoes section today. But anyways, Justin,
yeah,
heard y'all got a little snow.
Oh yeah, it snowed pretty bad here last night. Which, I mean, it's Boone, so what can you expect? But yeah, it was really bad. And so yesterday it was Valentine's Day, and at Domino's they had a 50% off deal, and I was not about to say no to that. Get some money off a pizza, I'm all for that. So I decided to risk my life and go out and try to pick up some pizza, because one, I always feel bad for like delivery, because I feel like I don't want to put a burden on them having to deliver to me, even though that's their job. And I know that's really weird, but so I always like go and pick up food when I like carry out, anytime I can. And so I went in the middle of this snowstorm, and like the roads hadn't been plowed. It was all icy, and I live on this really big hill. And so I started going down the hill, and I hit the brakes, and I just started sliding, and I'm like, well, crap. And so it's a very narrow hill, and there are cars that park like on the side of it because they can't get up the hill, or somebody lives like down the hill a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so there was this huge truck that was parked right at the bottom, and so I had to make a split-second decision. I'm like, all right, I'm either going to jump the curb and hit a little bit of the sidewalk and scrape a tree, or hit this truck. And so I jumped the curb, made it to a stop, and finally kind of pulled on out. So was able to miss that, but yeah, eventually I went and picked Kelsi up and got some pizza as well. But yeah, traveling last night was a little bit rough.
On my way back from work, it usually takes me 12 to 15 minutes, and it probably took me at least 30, if not 40, because I went 10 to 20 miles an hour on a 50-mile-an-hour road.
Right.
And like all of these trucks and Subarus were like just zipping right past me, and there I was in my little compact car chugging along. But anyway, so we got to Domino's.
Yeah.
Pick up the pizza, and the poor delivery guys and people working.
Yeah, they were backed up last night. So yeah, a lot of people were coming in and were like complaining because they were like 30 to 40 minutes behind. And so, but I just sat there because I understand. I've been in that situation before. And so, like, as I was leaving, they kept apologizing, and I was like, yeah, no worries, it's fine, it's fine. And then as I walked out, like, the guy who helped me, like, he said, wait a second, and he asked me if I wanted, like, anything free, like, if I wanted free sauces or any, like, thing on the side. I was like, no, don't worry about it. And, and then it was just really, he was really, like, grateful for that. And, I don't know, that was a nice little story. So, go me. I'm so humble.
Well, the story. Be nice to your people, delivery guys, and people who work in restaurants, because they are doing the best they can.
Well, I would say they're doing the best they can, but sometimes you just got a pretty crappy server.
Yeah, I understand that too, sometimes.
I've had a few. They shouldn't be at the job. But anyways, outside of that, I don't ever have delivery sent to my house in this area. I go pick up all my pizzas.
Yep.
Being that, of course, we get all our stuff from Papa John's is right down the road from us. So,
I gotcha.
I could probably hit a golf ball to Papa John's from here. I would say throw a baseball, but that may be a little far. But I think I can hit a golf ball there. Maybe. I don't know. That'd be a tough swing too, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. When it comes to my food, I'm not very trusting.
Aw.
I feel you there.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that.
I mean, food is precious,
Yeah.
My precious.
Yeah. Food's pretty important to me. As you can tell, I'm a pretty big boy. But anyways, we're gonna yesterday was kind of nice here. I think it hit about, I think at one point it was about 61 degrees here.
Seriously?
Yeah, the sun was shining. We were out. We was walking around. We just having fun yesterday.
Geez.
Went and took. We had a little family Valentine's Day lunch at King Kong Sushi and loaded it up. And,
nice,
good, just good stuff. So we had a blast yesterday. Just some family time and
awesome.
Being silly with the family, cutting jokes, laughing, making fun of people. It's what we do. No. That's not too nice, I don't think. Well, and then again, we've established I'm not a nice person. But anyways, so today we're just gonna, I guess maybe we'll just start out with something a little lighthearted. We've been testing stuff. I would say we did a beta test record. Late Friday night, and we went through some topics and stuff, and we decided that beta test recording doesn't work, especially when it's like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that's true.
So we did some things Friday night, and I kind of enjoyed a couple of them. So I'm going to revisit one, but with a twist. So since we have a special guest on this week, Kelsi, and
Yes.
Let's just throw a couple disclaimers out, Justin, just so everybody will understand how this podcast may go. Kelsi's just she's fun and she's quite silly and
quirky at times.
Quirky, maybe just a hair gooberish.
I'm waiting for beautiful here.
That's not my job. That's not my job. That's Justin's job. A quite lovely young lady we have on the show.
I'll accept that one.
But in saying all that, my whole job is to embarrass her, which y'all won't be able to see the red cheeks, and to make her feel like, did I really need to come on this podcast today? That's my job.
I think about 5 minutes before we started recording, I was definitely like, wait, do I really want to do this? Like, dang it, is it too late for them to find somebody else?
I always like asking Kelsi certain questions like, Kelsi, will you be able to podcast like a girl today.
Ugh. I liked the Super Bowl commercial, the Like a Girl.
Oh, it was a great commercial. I thought they did a wonderful job trying to break the stereotypes between, masculinity and whatever the other word would be, femininity. I think it's great because I know there are women who are faster than me, can play golf better than me, can play well, I guess they could play baseball better than me. There's a few women that can definitely play basketball better than me. Welcome, Porky Pig. Don't get too close to Kelsi because that's the only meat she eats. I would highly doubt that. Well, I don't know. I guess there may be some women that can play football better than me. But we had a long talk. I think it was last week. Sometime we were all together. We was talking about the whole like a girl thing, and I think women can do whatever they want, but men can't, because men never have a baby. Which I don't think that's a bad swap out. I mean, do whatever you want.
I'll
woman.
take that exchange.
I mean, hey, if you wanna race a car, Kelsi, go right ahead. I just don't want to have any babies. I'll take that. You can have all your woman problems.
I'll take the hit for society.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I'll keep it going, I guess.
Yeah, no big deal. That whole baby thing. I mean, I've been in the room when babies was born. It doesn't look like it's like pleasant. It's not pleasant.
Personally would not know.
Yeah, well, let's just say, it's not as beautiful as everybody makes it out to be.
Miracle of childbirth.
I think my pastor lovingly refers to his children at birth as aliens.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartly. They look weird. It's like everybody's like, oh, look how cute. No, them babies ain't cute when they pop out, man. It's just, ugh. Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. Since we're talking about babies, let's be real honest. Now, you go out to a baby, and I know you're trying to be nice to the parents. It's like, oh, they're so cute. And I'm like,
some babies are just not cute.
Most. Especially newborn babies, not very many of them are.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Maybe once they get a little chubbiness on them, they got a little fat roll on the chin. But there's some babies that just ain't cute. Now,
I mean, technically, babies are parasites. You're like living inside of a person, feeding off of their food supply.
I've never. I've never heard a baby called that before in my life. Oh, we have taken a turn for the worse. Okay,
that's what happens when we have a woman on the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see how it is.
Look,
just kidding. We love you.
All babies are awesome. They're special. They're gifts that we have. They're gifts from God, but babies are awesome. I'm not going to say I like babies. I don't hold babies. I just don't. I don't hold other people's babies. I hold mine because I'm responsible for them. But don't give me your baby because I don't want to drop it. They just kind of like wiggle, and it's hard because my arms are really long, and it's weird for me to hold a child. Now, if they're like 1.5, 2 years old, I love toddlers. Toddlers are awesome because they're mischievous and devious and deceptive, and they're just all over the place. But babies, no, I don't want to hold your baby. So
will you permanently babysit for me when my children are 2?
If you want them corrupted and ruined, yeah, I'll do it all the time. I wouldn't have no problem with that.
You do a good job of that.
Because when you get them back, you're gonna go, "What in the world is wrong with you?"
My child.
Yeah, Keith got a hold of them. I'll teach him all the bad stuff. Like my youngest, she, like when she was young, you couldn't tell that she was a girl anyways because she was bald-headed and she loved to run out with just a diaper on and burping and farting and whatever. And she just, and I'm
doing what babies do.
Yeah, doing what they do. And she loved it. And I thought, hey, that's how I like it. I like a kid to be just a kid. But anyways, being your non-illustrious host, we've talked about what kind of topic we want to get into with our first female guest on the show. There's some things that came up, but the one that I think Kelsi brought to light that seems appropriate is talking about, I guess, if you're talking like we're speaking from an inside the wall perspective, looking at it from a Christian point of view. We always hear this moniker of, you can't date, you shouldn't be dating people that's not a Christian. You shouldn't date outside your faith. You should kind of, I'm sure we can draw up plenty of verses that point to this as a Christian. But how does this topic relate to people who are on the other side of the wall, whether they're Muslim or Buddhist or atheist or agnostic? That it's not only interfaith dating, but it's just completely dating outside your faith. I mean, we can go to other faiths. I know, like inside the Islam religion, or the religion for those who are in Islam, Muslim religion, they're very strict in their practices of dating and marriages as well, from the ones that I know. I think they're a lot more strict than Christians are when it comes to that. You don't marry. Well, number one, you don't marry anybody that's not a Muslim. It just seems like that. I think maybe other religions are the same. They have a kind of strict. I mean, even like inside the Christian faith, the different denominations, to a extent. I know Catholics like Catholics and Baptists like Baptists and stuff like that. I've seen that kind of boil down inside families. But today we're just going to kind of open the floor up and talk about, what does it look like? Does it really matter? If it matters, why does it matter? And maybe since we do have somebody who is not man on the show today, give us some good insights from her perspective, being Kelsi as well. Let's start with this question. I'll ask this question and you give me your thoughts on it. Is it a big deal dating outside your faith?
I say yes from my experience, and it doesn't seem like it, and because it's not like you hear all these verses and don't date if other people who aren't Christian or outside of your religion. That doesn't make these non-Christians not attractive or not nice. They're still there are a lot of guys that are still funny and nice and sweet or whatever, and I mean, you still like them, whether or not they're Christian, or you can like them. But I think, and because of that, it's really easy, or was really easy for me to justify dating someone who is not a Christian. Because to me, it was well, they're still a good person. Why can't I not date them, or whatever? Through some hard experiences, and a lot of time, I have begun to realize that the thing that's really important is not that they're funny or nice or attractive. And they can be all of those things, but the difference in religion is so significant, even if you want to ignore it, that it is a big deal. So I think if you look at religion loosely, it influences how you understand and perceive the world, and especially how you want to be comforted. So if you're hurt or insecure or whatever, how you want to be taken care of, or how you act when you are insecure, all of that is influenced by your view of the world. You could call that religion. Religion is your view of the world. And if you don't have the same view as this person you're dating, it can be really hard to understand them and know them and be able to comfort them and be there for them and be their best friend, which I think is really what you want from a romantic dating relationship.
Okay, so what would be the thing that causes the biggest rift between a couple when it's different religions or different faiths, so to speak? What is the one thing that you think you can't overcome, or the thing that's going to quote unquote doom the relationship?
think that really depends on the relationship itself and where you are in life. Because for some relationships, it could be how you parent your kids or how you spend your money. But I wasn't at any of those points when I was dating people who weren't Christian. So for me, the biggest thing was how I was comforted or was trying to comfort them. And so there was one guy that I was dating who was agnostic, who claimed to be agnostic. And when he was upset about something, he wanted me to tell him that, like, it's okay, you're still a good person, you can, like, this little thing isn't that big of a deal. When I was upset, I wanted to be comforted by saying, God has you in his hands. That you can't mess anything up so bad that he's not going to love you anyway. And I couldn't comfort him in the way he wanted to be comforted, genuinely. Like, I could do it. I could say, like, yeah, you're still a good person. It's okay. But that's not how I genuinely wanted to react to the situation. And he couldn't genuinely comfort me that way either, which, so you have a choice between being genuine, who you genuinely are, and what you believe, and or doing what this person wants to hear. So you're not able to be genuine with the person that you're with. Okay,
so we're getting into a field or a area that I really like, because what you're describing as faith, as the different faith or religion, is less to do with like doctrinal things, but how it deals with you at an individual emotional level. Basically, the real spirituality of who you are as a person, not the overlying religious rituals that a person performs. Because I think that's, maybe, and I'm glad you really went there with that, because I think a lot of people see dating in different religious faiths, or dating between those, it really has more to deal with like where you go to church, or where you're doing your temple, or how do you fast, how do you pray, and things like that. But I think what you focused in on was more something that was more along the personal level of your spirituality. I think that's what people miss.
Yeah, because a religious practice is kind of like a lot of other habits that we develop in our lifetime, and you can change those or give those up, or someone can accept those or whatever. But at the core, I think there's something bigger going on, which is why dating between different religions causes such heartache. Right.
And I've been reading an article, and funny enough, it comes from Match.com. and it
have good sources here.
Yeah, a great source.
If you want to sponsor Match.com,
hey, yeah, absolutely, Match.com. If you want to throw some money our way,
be better than Christian Mingle.
I don't know. I've never really, I might need to research that site a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But no, the article kind of pans out this idea of, they say, quote from it says, you might think you're doomed if you date someone outside your faith. And can you have a healthy, happy relationship with somebody that doesn't have the same faith as you? And, if you really want to find out, of course, they're going to try to tell you in this, probably, 800-word article, they're going to tell you the things that you need to know to make that relationship happen, which I think the way that Kelsi started putting it is almost impossible. I think you hit one thing on the head, Kelsi, when you said it depends on where you're at in your life, what stage of the relationship may be at, or what stage of, or how seriously you are looking at a relationship. Is it just a dating relationship? Is it something that you're looking for courtship to marriage? Is it the part of, or is it a marriage relationship? I mean, I hope people know the backgrounds of either's faith entering a marriage, but I do know some people who didn't find out what the other person believed till after they were married, and that's just funny in of itself. But I was thinking about what we was just talking about is that, like you said, religious practices or the rituals that a person has, I think you can work around those if it's not built in your faith. But, when you was talking about being the way you wanted to be comforted, or how you saw being comforted had to come from the ability to know your faith, to know what you want to go through, and to be genuine about that. I don't think real relationships can happen unless there is a genuine emotional connection between two people. And I don't think an emotional connection can happen between two people until they understand that spiritual side of that person. I believe everybody has a spiritual side to them. It's just a fact of how their beliefs shape that spirituality. For us as Christians, we're all shaped by God, Jesus, Holy Spirit. Whereas, Muslim spirituality is shaped differently, and Hindus is shaped differently, and even an atheist who may not believe in spirituality is shaped differently than ours too. So at the end of the day, it's like, how can I look at this other person and be genuinely in love with them, but yet the basis or the knowledge where my love comes from is totally from a different place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to talk about, like, you can still be friends, like have a friend relationship, but there's something different about a romantic, emotional relationship that it has a different weight to it, a different strain on it. Like, you put so much, or you rely more on a romantic relationship for, like, to be comforted, for someone to have your back. I think, and to be understood. Whereas if you're friends, you can kind of disagree with them, or if they give you advice, you don't necessarily have to always take it or agree with it. But to have someone that you're in a romantic relationship with and not really want to listen to them or feel understood by them can be really hard.
The article that I've been reading gives like 3 overall points. Okay, and let's use these 3 points to. I'm basically going to debunk what Match.com is saying, because they're like,
all right,
yeah, because it's ridiculous. They're saying, well, yeah, you can have a healthy, happy relationship, and both people maintain their faiths. Both people maintain the semblance of holding to what they believe. So they have 3 things, and the first one, it says you got to check your perspective, and then you have to bridge the gap. Go figure.
Hey.
And the importance of acceptance. So basically, checking your perspective, they're kind of talking about look at your perspective and look at their perspective. See what they believe, see what they know, see what you know, see how they intermingle between each other. Basically, it's like check your perspective in the sense of be humble, almost to a point. Don't be so prideful that that what you believe is the only right thing. That's how I'm reading this. I could probably go a little more into it.
But there's a problem there, because if you really believe what you do,
I mean, you wouldn't
have to.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't believe
depending on
it.
your religion,
Right.
You have to say that this is true. And I mean, there's some religions. I think someone described it to me once as it's hard to date someone with 2 different religions that can't accept the other as true. And there are some religions, maybe, or ways of looking at the world where, like an agnostic, like this thing could be true or this thing could be true, and it's kind of okay. But some religion that is a little bit more, defined, strict. I don't know the right word for that.
Exclusive?
Yeah, maybe. Exclusive. Like Christianity or
Islam or Judaism.
Something like that, where only one of those can be true.
Yeah.
According to that religion.
Right. Well, and I was going to say that too. They something they're trying to make here is they're saying, there's a difference between faith and doctrines, which I don't think there's a lot of difference between those two, because I think your faith builds the doctrine that you have, and and the doctrine represents what you believe, and that's how you live your life. Our doctrine as Christian, one of our doctrinal statements as Christians is that Jesus is, the only way. Jesus is God. Whereas, a doctrinal statement for a Muslim may be that Jesus is just a prophet, and he has nothing to do with, our salvation or our eternal inheritance, so to speak. So, which I could be totally getting those wrong, but right now that's how I see it. But anyways, there's this next part where they're talking about bridging the gap, and which is getting into what you're saying. And I'm going to use bridging the gap in their third part, the importance of acceptance. It's like they're saying, relationships require compromise, and I do believe being married 20 plus years now, there is a buttload of compromise that goes into a relationship, a whole lot. But one thing that I've seen that you really can't compromise on is your faith, and that's why I'm saying I think what they're seeing here is they're trying to make this difference between your core spirituality, which is your faith, which is the stuff that comes, your actions come from your faith. They're like, you can blend your services, they're talking about weddings, right? You can incorporate both of the traditions into service. So, we're going to have a little bit of Jesus and a little bit of, Muhammad. We're going to have a little bit of
Krishna and a little bit of
love that.
Yeah. I think the only people that can get away with this is if an atheist marries a Christian, because an atheist just really doesn't care. and I guess at the end they may care,
an
but
agnostic and a Christian, not even an atheist and a Christian.
Yeah, well, you're maybe right. I mean, if an atheist loves a Christian enough, they just say, well, really what you believe is not true, so I don't care what happens,
Yeah.
But, I think it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because you're asking two people to compromise on something that if they hold near and dear to their faith, if it is the thing that is the core of their spirituality, you're asking, saying, we need you to compromise.
Compromise who you are, not just...
Yeah.
There's a difference between leaving your toothpaste out on the sink and, compromising that and, okay, I guess I'll put it away, or compromising who you are as a person.
One of the quotes from the article says, and with an attitude of goodwill, many options are possible. For example, both partners can maintain their religious beliefs and practice and come up with a plan for their wedding ceremony and the religious education of the future children, perhaps incorporating both traditions. And that's what you were saying earlier about how things are contradicting. Like, let's just use, for example, let's use a Muslim and a Christian, for example. Can a Muslim, throwing out all the extremist natures of the religions, could a Muslim and a Christian honestly live under the same roof, raise their kids with the compromising attitude of traditions, and not only that, being able to compromise in their traditional practices, such as church or temple, mosque, whatever it is? Is that a possibility? I mean, do you think that can happen?
I would say it's possible, yes, but I think each side would have to give up core things about their religion, which then would bring up the question: well, do they still follow, or do they still really follow that religion in the first place?
Right. You have to give up this exclusivity that this is the only way.
Yeah. Because neither. I mean, when we're talking about just specifically about Christianity and Islam, we're talking about two religions that, at the core, I believe, do not have an all-inclusive value to it. There is one path in both of those religions, and now I do say I kind of agree with you, Justin. There is a place where I think a Muslim and a Christian could marry each other and live happily in a satisfied relationship, but the compromise won't be what they compromise between each other, but what they compromise to their faiths, in of itself,
to themselves,
right. It's not what they're compromising for the other partner; it's what they're giving up in their faith, because we know that things hold true, and we could go, and now we're talking about also truths. So if we could probably get rid of, let's just take the religious part out of it altogether.
Okay.
Let's use something very silly so it can be easily understood. Let's say two people, a man and a woman, come together. All right, and the man comes into the relationship, and this is going to sound super silly, but it's really easy to understand.
Okay.
All right. So the marriage ceremony, the place of the marriage ceremony, their kids, everything that happens is going to revolve around, it's going to be balloon centric. Okay. All right.
It's all about balloons.
It's all about balloons. Okay.
All right.
So the man comes in, and there's only one color of balloon in the world.
Okay.
All right. I know this sounds stupid, but just follow me.
So red balloons.
So there's red balloons in the world.
No, red.
So we come into this relationship, and the man believes that all the balloons in the world are red. Okay. But yet, the woman comes into the relationship and believes all balloons are blue.
Okay.
Somebody is going to have to look at that balloon if they compromise and believe, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, if I see blue and he sees red, somebody's lying. This is my truth. This is your truth. Now, I don't believe truth is relative. I believe there's an absolute truth. But in this scenario, we're going to say that all balloons in the world are red. Okay. So
objectively, in reality, they are red.
They are red.
Okay.
But when the one person comes in and says and sees that red balloon and they say it's blue, their objective personality in their selecting of truth says that they're blue. Okay. So if we're going to say that these two people's faiths, which give them, you know, their perspective on what color this balloon is red or blue. When we're talking about, okay, now we're going to have to compromise on how we raise our children. What is the compromise? Who do they form a new color? So now blue.
All balloons are green.
Yeah, I was going to say blue and red make green. Purple.
Yeah, blue and red.
Oh yeah, because blue and yellow make green.
Yeah. I was just saying green for just. Yay, color theory. Let's move on.
Guess why I didn't go to art school?
I definitely thought I was crazy there for a second when you both said green. I was like, wait, what?
It's purple.
I was just choosing a random color.
wrong.
Yeah, it's purple. You're right, Kelsi. We're guys. That's why we have a female on the show to tell us what colors are, because I don't know colors. Outside of black, white, and red. Go figure. Oh, I know blue. Blues. Devils. Anyways.
Yeah, there's going to be a compromise somewhere in there, whether it's a mixing of the two to make purple,
right?
Or whether they're like, well, it could be any color you want it to be,
right?
You know, it could be clear. The balloon might not even exist at all. No.
So it kind of comes down that you have to forsake the truth you knew to coexist with the person who has a different faith. And I think the compromising between the two of them is somewhere someone, either one or both, will have to say, we have to dismiss the truth that we know to be true. How does that help, or how does that solidify that relationship moving forward?
I think more practically, or on a practical level, it kind of becomes about sides a little bit, where it's like the child picked the red balloons, and then the one who thought they were blue was like that. The relationship between the child then and the parent is damaged too, I think, because it is so personal.
Right. I mean, I see it in. I've seen it in real life scenarios where, you know, you have families who are mixed faiths, and the child, you know, is now, you know, caught in the middle of what do I believe and which way do I go? You know, this, and honestly, I've never seen it in real interfaiths, but interdenominational things like Catholic and Christian and things like that. I mean, we're talking about two faiths. Yeah, well, yeah, Catholic and Protestant, or Catholic and Baptist, or Catholic and non-denominational, whatever you want to call it, because there is a very doctrinally sound faith when it comes to Catholics, and then there's a whole different ballgame when we're talking on the Protestant side as well.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of, you know, I've seen relationships just crumble under that weight. And we're talking about basically the same faith. You know, it revolves around Jesus.
Right.
And yet they can't coexist in that same environment. I mean, what are we to do when we're talking about different faiths? So going back to the main top, or the main question is can people of different faiths or spirituality belief systems coexist in a relationship that would eventually lead to marriage? I mean, you know, we're not, and I think something that people need to, I know that we're all Christians on this podcast today. Even if we brought somebody in that wasn't a Christian, do you think with any legitimacy they could actually say, yes, you can do it, and hold to what you believe without changing your truth?
Without compromising?
Yeah, without compromising.
I have had previous boyfriends who thought that we could.
Yeah.
And
did it work?
Well, obviously not, because I broke up with them because I didn't think we could. And part of me wonders if they really believed that we could do it.
Right.
Or if that was just his way of justifying or getting around that difficult subject.
I think in beginning of relationships, and I'll say this from a guy's perspective, we'll say anything to get into that relationship. And honestly, outside of a Christian perspective, we'll say anything to get into that relationship. You know
what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, but I'm thinking, think about what you're risking everything you're believing for a person who, let's just say two people come in and say, I'm not compromising my faith. And the other says, well, I'm not compromising my faith. How could that work? I mean, at the end of the day, how can two people live in and we're going to say a loving relationship at the height of what humans can love? I mean, husband and wife, I think the one love that is supposed to have the greatest intimacy and bond of any other type of love. How can that happen when they don't agree on where that love comes from or how that relationship is supposed to be bonded together? I mean, all those things become factors. And see, I think the reason we're talking about it is not to say, okay, well, Christians don't marry somebody who's non-Christian. Muslims marry Muslims. Atheists marry. It's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that I want people to be realistic about these things, because I think some people, like you were saying, Kelsi, well, they thought we could. They thought we could hold to our beliefs and still have a good relationship. Do you think that's just ignorance, foolishness?
Naivety.
Okay. Just being outright naive about things. Is it something that two people should explore when entering a relationship? I mean, is your faith the most important thing that's going to come out of a relationship, or the most important factor of holding a relationship together, do you think?
Well, I think it also depends on how tightly a person holds their religion to start with.
Okay.
That if you're kind of like, yeah, I'm a Christian, I go to church.
Yeah, very nominally, then it's not really cemented as sort of a part of your core identity.
Yeah.
But if it's something that you hold on to, like if that's that's extremely important to you, like say like a Christian, that you identify in Christ, and that you have been changed, transformed, all the Christianese words by Jesus. Then you hold that to really a core part of who you are. Because if you believe that you've been like reborn, then that's that you're born again in Christ, and so that becomes like a core part of your identity.
Right.
And so I think it's a lot more difficult when faith is held really closely to chest and really as a central part of identity. Whereas I think if it's held nominally loosely, then it's easier to be like, well, that can kind of go, and then that can kind of go. So,
right.
And I've done that, and I think it's you can go through stages of that in a relationship, where in the beginning of the relationship, I kind of pushed my faith to the side, and it just kind of happened because I didn't know how to deal with it, so I just ignored it. And then after a while, I recognized that I wasn't being genuine with myself about how closely I held these things.
Right.
And then had to go backtrack with this person and really hurt them by saying, so all of these months that we've been together and I've been thinking that this issue is okay, I really don't think it is.
Yeah.
And having to really hurt this other person because I couldn't realize that in the beginning.
Right.
And I think that's a risk that you take.
So the biggest thing is figuring out how important the role of a person's religion plays in his or her life. So like y'all were saying, if it's if Christianity is just something that they did growing up, or if they're Jewish, and temple was, like we was talking to Jack last week. Jack made a good point that it was just something we did once or twice a year, so it really wasn't important to us. It wasn't something, because we looked at his mom and dad, Jewish and Catholic. Now she compromised all of her belief systems and converted to Judaism. So that's, I guess, but then in the end, they just both said, well, his dad said there's no God. So I guess if his mom and dad are together, that they just kind of came to that conclusion together themselves as well, Right. It's, I guess in a sense it can happen, but I still feel that, like you're saying, is how important it is. I mean, like, Justin, how important is Christ to you?
Pretty important. It's like, I'd like to say he's the top of priority list. I mean, I don't live it like hardly at all, which is terrible.
Right.
But ideally, yeah. And what I want to be and what I strive to be is for, Christ to be everything and to be the head of, my life, and to, live, as Christ being an example of how to live and to imitate Christ. And so it's really important to me. So, for example, just from my experience, I've never dated anyone who wasn't a Christian. And that's just because, like, I don't know, that's a lot. There's a lot of factors there, but, it's, because it's been such an important thing to me. That's usually like one of the first things I look for in a relationship. Does this person have, not just say they're a Christian, but have a genuine relationship with Christ, which is not something that you find instantly, but it's something you have to get to know the person and really like be their friend, and then kind of go from there. At least that's my experience. But
the important word that you used, I think, or the key word is strive, what you're striving to be, because like I'm not the best Christian ever, whatever, but
none of us are. But
yeah, I think that's part of the point. But there are certain times where I get it, and I'm really devoted to my faith. And then there's some times where I'm not. And it's really easy when I'm not devoted to my faith for me to pick up or start engaging in a relationship with someone who's not a Christian, and for them to see my faith as something nominal. And then it seems like the relationship can work. But it's always, for me, important to remember that there are these times where I am really striving, and at my core, what I want is this strong relationship with God, and I can't let my moments of, inability to have a good relationship with God to hurt this person and let them think that it's okay to have this relationship with me.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it does. And I just, because of what we're doing at Forgetting Walls, I don't want the message to come across like we're trying to separate people through their relationships,
Right.
I just want people to be real about it, though, because the point of a relationship, and, okay, for me, marriage, whether I'm a Christian or not a Christian, I believe marriage should be forever. I think it should be one marriage. I think you should, like you say, like we're talking about the word strive, you should strive to find the right person that will, not because they're just like you or they may believe just like you, but that person you'll be able to go to the grave with.
Right.
I come from a divorced family, so and I saw the heartache between the parents and what stress it causes children, and not just that, but it causes so many rifts and different things that happen. And it's not, I'm going to say it's not fair to children, number one.
Yeah.
But I also believe this, though I'm against divorce, I also believe that there's some situations that there two people shouldn't stay together. You shouldn't force it, because it gets worse. I'm all over the place when it comes to marriage and divorce and relationships and kids, because, I was in the midst of it. I saw somebody once asked me, how did you feel when your parents got divorced? And I'm like, as mean as this sounds, I was actually kind of happy, because there was no way that they were going to be able to be happy. There was too much there. And it just caused so much turmoil. But and here's the funny thing: it wasn't based off a belief system or anything like that. That was just two people who could not just get along at the end.
Yeah,
and that's real. Now we're going to throw in the mix of something that's really important. Like I asked you, Justin, how important is Christ to you? And you're like, well, he's very important. Outside the fact of how I live for him, it's very important. And this is the thing for me. If your faith is to you one of the utmost important things, then you're going to have to find somebody that faith is that important to them as well. There's no way around it. You can't hold to something so dearly and someone have a totally different view, which cannot coexist in the same place, and expect that you can go to the grave with each other. I think it's just impossible. You see what I'm saying? It's so hard to put two people in a relationship together of that magnitude, of that intimacy level, and find some way to, like I was saying, coexist. You know, I don't want to say that, people have to break up. Are we saying that? Are we saying, okay, everybody who's in,
it's time for you guys to break up.
Look, you
both ain't a Christian.
Hold on.
Break up the relationship now, because it's not gonna work.
Don't look over there and say,
she's not a Christian.
And say, I can't be with her.
She's so dark-sided.
Them tarot cards.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, let's take a second and give maybe what kind of advice can we? I hate giving advice, but I think there needs to be some, maybe I'll maybe not call it advice, but some level of, okay, if you're going through this or you're in this, these are some things you may be able to do to help understand where you need to go in the relationship.
I don't want to call it advice, but the only solution that I've found to this, because it ended up that in my relationships I was not being genuine to myself, and I was not able to share this integral part of myself with this other person. I was ignoring that, and the only solution that I found was to break up, because it was putting too much. I was expecting so much from this person without them understanding really who I was and what made me who I was. And so for me, the only solution was to break up. And I think maybe the consolation to that, or it was made better by remembering that I wasn't married to this person, that I was dating to date. I wasn't already married to somebody.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of people look at dating relationships kind of as a marriage relationship. And for me especially, I felt like I was stuck with this person, that I had to work it out with this person. But sometimes, I don't know, maybe sometimes you just aren't supposed to be together. Yeah. It's okay to break up.
I think that there's a large populace, and I'm going to, not to be sexist or chauvinistic, but I think there's that women go into relationships and they hold on to these relationships with, a tighter clutch on it. And they don't want to let go of those things when they're not married. Like they're in these dating relationships or boyfriend-girlfriend relationships, and they put more importance on that relationship than needs to be put on that relationship at that point. I mean, of course, there's other factors, if you have kids in that relationship or how long you've been in that relationship, I'm sure those things grow over time. But, how important is it to discuss the faith at the beginning of the relationship? Because like you said, the only thing that you could really see to do at the end was to break up. Was there a point in that relationship where you said, this is my faith and this is your faith, we need to discuss it? We need to look at these things that we believe differently, that's causing us to be different, that's causing the relationship not to work?
Yes, but those conversations never ended well. And I think part of the reason why they never ended well was, or they never really came to a final conclusion, was because the only final conclusion we could come up with was that we should break up, but we didn't want to do that.
Neither of you wanted to do that.
We just kind of didn't ever go there because we both knew what needed to happen.
That's red flag.
Yeah. There were probably a lot of red flags in a couple of these past relationships that I should have heeded earlier. But I think it's definitely better to have these conversations earlier in the relationship than later.
Yeah. Because
the later you let it go, the longer or the more attached you are to somebody, and the harder it is to let go of that relationship. And I know that for me especially, I definitely, if I had faced these things in the beginning, I could have saved this other person a lot of heartache.
Right.
Because we were in a committed relationship, and he felt like I had led him on and let him believe all of these things just to say I was like, just kidding, I can't do it because of my faith. And he felt like it was a cop-out answer because for so long it had been okay, and then it suddenly wasn't.
Well,
That's how it
when in
appeared to him.
reality it wasn't okay, like the entire time. You just
ignored it for so long.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I think also, to take the conversation from being a selfish one, being, okay, I'm looking at it from my point of view. I'm looking at it how I can be, genuine to myself, how I'm trying to take care of myself and what I believe. So I don't compromise from the truth I'm in. I think also going into a relationship that is going to be, at some point, maybe a very intimate and serious relationship, the expectations you place on the other person becomes way too high for them to meet, and also becomes impossible. I think it becomes more impossible for them to meet because they don't understand what you believe. They're not rooted into the traditions or, the scriptures or whatever it may be that's in that faith that you believe in. How, like you said earlier in the podcast, how they didn't know how to comfort you because they didn't understand where you were coming from. So the expectation you had on them was something they would never be able to meet. So I think that would be a driving force into the relationship just becoming, crumbled and destitute because there's no way to revive something that when somebody can't meet what you're looking for.
It's kind of like, it almost reminds me of like buying flowers and chocolates on Valentine's Day or something where that's just, it's a thing that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But it really should be driven by, I love this person. I want to show you that you matter and that I care about you.
Yeah, I don't
and
do
it
that.
shouldn't be about just the words of like, yes, or saying all the right things when someone's trying to comfort me. It's not about the words. It's about why you said them and actually really meaning them.
Yeah.
That I think is important.
Yeah, I don't buy flowers or chocolates on Valentine's Day.
I like flowers.
Yeah, I'm glad you do, Justin. That's money out your pocket, bro. Yeah, none of my household. We do different things.
I did plant once.
Yeah. Flowers
Not for
flowers die.
Justin.
I've
Someone else,
bought
but-
flowers a few times, but flowers eventually die and they're no good. But no, I see the point. It's hard to, and I think, because we're trying to bridge gaps and shut off isolations. I think this is one of those things where people outside the Christian faith look at Christians like, oh, look, I feel it's like Christians, they inbreed,
right.
It's that inbreed mentality. But honestly, I think it's a lot bigger than that discussion of stupidity that we hear from people. All Christians don't want to venture outside their faith. It's not just Christians. I think it's everybody in general, because I think it plays a bigger role of importance, like we've been talking about, than people want to let on to. So it's one of those things that I think it is dividing, but it's only dividing because of the perspective it's put on what it symbolizes. It's not that we're dividing because of who we're dating. It's the way people perceive that action. Like, it is dividing, but it's not. You want to marry someone or be in that type of relationship that you're going to know that lasts. Now, when we're talking about friendships and, places or people we work with or people we hang out with, I think that becomes a little bit different, because you're not expecting that person to be just like you. You're not expecting that person to honestly comfort you in a way you want to be comforted because that's not an intimate relationship. I mean, I have friends who comfort me who aren't Christians and who provide support and sympathy, but I don't expect them to be empathetic into the nature that I'm empathetic. I don't think those things boil over the same way. So that's where I want to make sure that we're setting where we're drawing the line at.
Right.
And there is a difference between a romantic relationship and a friendship, and you treat your significant other different than you treat another friend.
Exactly.
And we might not be articulating that difference, it might be different for every person, but you kind of have to admit that there's a difference.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
At least I hope so.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think and the further those relationships grow, when we're talking about the romantic relationships, they continue to grow into another place. That's why I think, like like you said it earlier, it may be depend on the place you are in your life with that relationship, how early the relationship is. It may be just a very dating friendly relationship where you just go into the movies and hanging out until that time you get to know each other. But there's a point to where the things that matter to you the most need to be said. And I think people who don't find those things out till later in the relationship, like you said, they kind of hold it against you. They kind of feel like it's a cop-out because it's, what are you saying to me right now? You've been with me this long and now you're bringing up this point. I think there needs to be more open. And I think that's the part about relationships when we're talking about romantic, that's where we start understanding how intimate they are as to what level you're sharing your innermost parts to them. Well, that may sound weird, but
if you know what I mean.
Maybe those are the wrong words. We're getting ready to talk about church signs here in a minute, having innuendos. That was a bad one.
But emotional intimacy is something that's really hard to do, really, truly, deeply, and genuinely without having some common ground
right
to start from.
And I agree in that. I think that's your faith, whatever you want to call it, your spirituality, your belief system, is probably one of the most important things that integrates two people together. And if that is something that, let's just throw it out there, an atheist and a Christian, you can't, we're Muslim and a Christian, we throw, Buddhist and a Christian, we can throw a Christian and everything. A Muslim and an atheist. You're talking about something that there is a great divide there. And I just don't believe that at the end of the day, you can I don't think anybody at the end of the day can honestly say that, yes, the only way that those work if both people compromise their belief systems. And I don't think that's fair to either party.
Yeah. But I think that's it's a good thing in a way. I don't think it's, I don't want to say that there's a dividing wall between Christians and atheists getting married or having an intimate relationship. I think there can be something sacred or good about being in a relationship, about two Christians being in a relationship and being able to share that intimate part of themselves, their what makes them who they are, and to atheists being able to understand each other because they're coming from common ground. And I think there's something good about that because it means you're not having to fight at this very basic level or compete with your belief systems on such a basic emotional level. I don't think that it's a bad thing.
I agree. And it's tough because, what we're trying to do is really open people's eyes to, the gap that we have separating. But this topic is just, it's touchy in so many different situations. And of course, if you're sitting there thinking, you're in the classroom hearing Bueller.
You'll use any excuse to use that thing, won't you?
I don't get that one.
Have you not seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
No.
You are banned from the podcast. My gosh, man. Come on. Wow. We're trying to be pop culture relevant, and I understand most of the pop culture comes from the late 80s, early 90s. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off is a classic.
So good.
It's
I think it was on my Netflix queue. I just never watched it.
Man, you just need to take a break in your life and watch some of the best.
That was the first thing we ever did when we moved into Cone. First thing I ever did move into college was the first night. A bunch of us just gathered together in one of my friends' rooms, and there was probably a good 15 of us in a dorm room. And we just all watched, surrounded a computer screen, watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I was probably too intimidated. I think I sat in my room.
So great.
Put out my decorations.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. It's such a great movie. Depending on, if you want to be, super hyper spiritual Christian and be like, that's just a bad movie. Watch the daggone movie. It's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, but to get back to the point, so that it's not people listening think that this is boring or how can they say things like that? I don't know. Whatever. Continue your point.
Oh yeah, because I'm going to get off sidetrack quickly. But it's just For
That's what I'm
me,
here for.
yeah, I know. It's important. It's not a boring point. I know we're talking about it, and we're probably the most uneducated people at doing this. But I think I've never had an experience where I had to deal with that. Now, of course, me and my wife were married before I was a Christian, and where she was like kind of rooted in the Christian faith. But it wasn't important. I don't think it was a very important thing in the beginning, for either of us. Of course, it didn't matter to me one way or the other. I was so like, whatever. It didn't matter,
Yeah.
So I've never really had an experience of having to deal with, having that different faith in a relationship. But I have seen plenty being in youth ministry. Plenty.
Oh, I imagine so.
I mean, let's just put it like this. I'll use one story to show you what I mean. Okay.
Okay.
Had a youth. She was a Christian, or is a Christian.
Right.
And she was dating a Mormon. Now, in our county, or where we're at in our school system, it's a common thing to see Mormons and Christians date because they influx West Brunswick like crazy.
Yeah.
But so we've been having conversations. I think we're in conversations talking about dating and dating outside of faith, and it kind of came up, and and they didn't see a real big problem with it. And I was like, well, just if it's not a big deal, then bring your significant other to youth group one Wednesday night and see how he likes it. I mean, faith is not a big deal. Dating with different faiths is not a big deal. So, go ahead and bring them. Probably the worst mistake she ever made in her life, especially with me where I was at it. This was a little bit before you came to group, Justin.
Okay.
I want to be like really hyper spiritual and say this was God ordained. Because it wasn't planned. It wasn't premeditated by nobody. I don't think on anybody's part. But so he shows up to youth one night, and just a random night, didn't know. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know who he was in the beginning. I didn't know that she had brought him because they weren't sitting. It was weird because they weren't sitting together like right next to each other. So it was kind of weird for me. I'm like, so you bring your boyfriend and you're not sitting with him. But anyways. So I'm talking, and I happened to say something during the class, like, it's something along the lines of, we were talking about faith in Jesus, and I was like, because the Mormons don't really believe this way. They have a different thing, and I was like, I've been studying on the Mormon religion and stuff like that, and this guy goes, well, I know all about it. And I'm like, why? And he goes, well, I'm a Mormon.
Hey.
And let's just say for the last 35 minutes of that class, it became a debate between me and him.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
No,
it wasn't pretty. I mean, we weren't arguing.
Right.
And we weren't mean.
Yeah.
But I did know what I knew, and he didn't know what he thought he knew. So it didn't turn out well. But after the class, though, or the following day, she texted me. She goes, "We're no longer dating." And I'm like, "Well, what happened?" And she goes, "Well, I think we both saw at that moment that even though we thought we were able to, even though our face," and they kind of thought, well, they kind of lined up. It's about Jesus, this, that, and the other. But after they really dived into that discussion, they realized, oh, we really don't believe the same, and there's really no way we can compromise between these two things. So, yeah, it's very tough.
Gotcha. So, moral of the story, you as a youth pastor broke up a teen couple.
I'm so bad, dude. I'm such a mean
I thought you were going to say, like, when she asked, like, or when you asked what happened, and you're like, you happened.
I have been known to I probably was the worst youth pastor ever. Like, legit, I'm by far, let's just throw it out there. People who are listening who knew me as a youth, I'm the worst. Just the worst. Should've never been one.
Well, you got me.
Well, I roped a couple in. So, any final points you want to add to this very weird subject of, we'll just call it cross-religious dating?
Any final things?
Sounds like a cross-examination. I don't know. I think we, from my perspective, did it justice. I think we did good.
Yeah, and for me, like, it's tough on my end because I don't have that much experience with it. because I haven't really dated that much. I mean, I've talked to people and like been interested in kind of pre-dating, talking stages, stuff like that. And I mean,
Pre-dating.
Right.
but I mean, those conversations have come up, and it kind of made it difficult for those relationships to get off the ground because I saw that as such kind of like a fundamental part of like who I was. So I can kind of see that perspective too. But yeah, from my perspective, I think we covered a lot. So
Good. And it may be a good podcast, or it may be another bad one. I don't know.
we'll see.
And in that saying, it could sound a little bit like, just...
Nah.
So let's move forward. Let's get out of this. So
right.
We were talking before we started the podcast, and Kelsi was saying that she drives by a church and there was a sign, and the church sign said what, Kelsi?
Well, the last one was "Get right with God before you are left," and I thought
That's encouraging.
I thought that one was pretty good. I mean, with the clever, like the left and the right and the, I don't.
And so
that
here,
one was-
and this is my thing. I've been waiting to get into church signs because this is one of my pet peeves with churches. We're out here trying to promote a message of grace and mercy and love and compassion through the death and resurrection of Christ as Christians. And I drive down the road and I see signs like, tired of being a loser? Turn to God.
Well, that's encouraging.
That's so, doesn't it just make your heart well with love and compassion when you hear stuff, like, do you know what hell is? Come hear our preacher.
And I can't figure out if that one's, I don't know if they intended it to mean that the pastor was talking about hell that week, or if listening to the pastor was like hell.
Well, hey, you never know, because it could be, don't let worries kill you, let the church help.
Yeah, I saw that one.
It never breaks, or I'm sorry, not break, but it's never become very clear to me in why people, say these things on church signs. I mean, it's like, if your life stinks, try our pews. Come on.
I mean, I guess, what is the ultimate goal there? What are they trying to accomplish? Are they hoping that someone who doesn't go to their church will drive by and be like, that's clever. I'm going to spend an hour and a half with people I don't know and with someplace I've never been, and go show up on random Sunday just because their sign was sort of clever. Is that what the mentality, how it kind of goes in the mind?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how hard you try on it either. It's something like, you can try to be relevant. Jesus is the rizzle for the sizzle. I mean,
What?
I automatically knocked that off my list.
It doesn't quite make sense there.
I mean, and then
Watch it be an all-white church, that's all I'm saying.
and that's what I'm saying. And hey, stop, drop, and roll will not work in hell. I mean, this is what they're promoting on their church signs. And let's be real. I mean, it can be very, they can have some very condemning signs. Like, I kissed a girl and liked it, then I went to hell.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously. Or they can have signs that just do not sound like what they're meaning to sound. Like, we actually had one local that said a 4-inch tongue can bring a 6-foot man to his knees. I mean, what are we doing here?
Oh, God.
Life without God is like an unsharpened pencil. No point.
No point.
Come on. I don't want to say some of the things that people put on their church signs because I actually feel dirty saying it. Like, and then you have things like tsunami, AIDS, wars. Do you hear me now? Sign, God.
It's so painful.
There's so much wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I just feel bad for anyone who's not a Christian and who's reading that and thinks that's what...
That applies to all of Christianity, and that's
Yeah.
what all Christians think.
It hurts us too.
No, it does. Like signs like the cold world needs warm-hearted Christians. I need to find some warm-hearted Christians because not most of us are warm-hearted. It's just... here's my point. I'll make this point about church signs, and I'll let y'all make y'all's point.
All right.
A church sign is not to promote a stupid, dumb, wise saying. Dumb, wise saying. Think about that, too. A dumb, wise saying.
Yeah.
Today's proverbs on church signs, they don't cut it. Here's what a church sign is for. Tell somebody what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Tell somebody that, hey, we got Sunday service at 9 o'clock. Hey, the kids are doing this week. Hey, if you want to say, hey, pray for your soldiers, or something encouraging or uplifting, and pointing somebody to something.
Yeah.
Don't get out there and say a loose tongue often gets into a tight place. We don't want to see that. But hold on a second. I do have a good sign for you.
Okay.
I don't know how this is going to go.
Okay.
God prefers kind atheists over hateful Christians.
I like that one, though.
I kind of like that one, too.
Yeah.
Oh, no, hold on. I got one more for you.
Okay.
Forgive your enemies. It messes with their heads.
Well, yes, I guess that's true, but it's probably not the only reason why you should forgive your enemies.
I still love... I don't know. Church signs for me is a tipping point. Pastor, stop being witty. You're not. If you were meant to be a comedian, you would not be in the church.
Yep. We've all seen your Twitter account. Stop it.
Stop. So what do y'all think about church signs? What do you really think about them?
They, like I said, they're so painful for me to read because I know a lot of people who are atheists or agnostics who feel very hurt by the church, who grew up bullied by people who said they were Christians, and just they see these things and really do think that is what all Christians believe and represent. And it is so, it just kills me that there are Christians out there who are trying to make people feel bad about themselves for what they believe and just like bullying them to try and convert them. It doesn't work, and it just causes so much pain for other Christians who are trying to spread a message of love, and for people who are atheists who have been hurt by the church. And these messages are just reinforcing everything they've heard and believe.
Yeah. And I particularly the worst thing for me is when a church sign is super political.
Yeah.
I can't either side. And I don't know, to me it's just you shouldn't be using the church shouldn't be using its platform to promote a political platform. The church should be to bless the congregation. It should be for the upbuilding of the kingdom of God. It shouldn't be to tear down different political parties or platforms or these different ideas. It's to
individuals or institutions or anything.
Yeah, it's to build up the body of Christ and to be a blessing to everyone. So
I agree.
That's my spiel.
And I'll leave you with this one. Bring your sin to the altar and drop it like it's hot.
Circus, Afro circus, Afro circus, Afro polka dot, Afro.
What?
Oh,
you're having fun with that soundboard, aren't you?
Gosh, it's just random sound day. Oh my goodness, yeah. Wow. If y'all didn't know, I'm sure that our audience listened to the intro, or if they listened to the intro, they probably hadn't made it this far. Said, we're turning this one off. Oh my gosh, it's been everywhere today. So let's go ahead and finish up. Justin, you said you had a little article about Facebook.
Yeah. So I noticed the other day, I was going through Facebook and actually saw an article on it, and I went through to confirm it. But pretty much everyone has a Facebook account, right?
Or most people, the majority of people.
Yeah, but you can probably safely say a majority of people
yes.
that have a Facebook account.
Exactly.
Okay, so I found out the other day that in the privacy settings, how you can set different for only friends can see this, or public or whatever. if you go to like the like your security settings, the last option on there is called a legacy contact.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that is basically you choose a family member or friend, basically to care for your account after you die.
It's like a little baby.
So it's kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a will in some way. And like the weird thing is the person doesn't know. They don't send a notification to the person until after you pass away. And so I can just imagine like that's like even worse for the family, or that's worse for some random person, for like one of their friends to die, and then it comes up a notification, you are this person's legacy contact. You're now responsible for their page. That's like so much more grief.
The little red notification on your Facebook account, and you think it's like someone just liked a status or something.
It's like, no, your friend died. It's like, what?
Oh God.
You know, because life is short, but Facebook is forever.
Right. The other thing, okay, so your mom, she's totally doesn't know any of her friends or something like that. Like, for some reason, she just didn't know you died. And then she checks her Facebook account like 2 days later and gets this notification and is like, oh my God, what? What is this?
She found out through Facebook that her child is gone.
It's like finding out you got broken up with on Facebook, but a million times worse.
I really think the major discussion here is how does Facebook know you die?
That's what we were wondering.
We were wondering the same thing. And my only guess is that I guess they pretty much traffic, or they keep track of, you know, what traffic is on your page and stuff like that. So I'm guessing if there's like an influx of traffic on your page that like all specifically say like, you know, rest in peace, or all, you know, you're such a great friend, you know, and there's like a large number of that happening on your page, then I guess they lock down your page. I don't know. I haven't looked.
Could we test this?
They like send you. It's like, have you died yet, or something?
Could we test this? Could we build like a fake Facebook page?
See, that's what we were thinking about. Either we were thinking doing it as a prank to someone we didn't like, just getting a bunch of people to post on their wall.
But I'm thinking really like I really think this is a relevant test of the Facebook system to do. I think we should build a fake Facebook page.
Yeah.
I guess a fake one would work. I was thinking we could like pretend to kill off Justin.
This was my point. I was telling Kelsi, I would never want to do it to someone that I actually liked.
Yeah. Let's just do it to Justin.
Thanks.
I second that.
Hey, give Jack a call and see if we can use his Facebook as a test page.
Of course you want to kill off the atheist.
So, that is very interesting. I know you had mentioned something about it and I completely forgot.
Yeah.
But that is, well, and I'll tell you this, it's, I think it's a good thing that Facebook put in place. It's smart. I just think there needs to be a better way to go about it.
Yeah. So, and it is like, I was looking into it, and so I went to edit that, the thing, and there is a thing where it says if you don't want a Facebook account afterward, you can just set it so that your account would be permanently deleted.
But again, what if like people start posting on your wall or something and you're not actually dead and it just deletes your account and you're like, wait, what? What just happened?
I don't know. It just sounds like too much fun for me.
We're all really dark people.
Yeah, it's a wonder we call ourselves Christians, right? Well, that I think that'll do it for the show this week.
All right.
Yeah, because
about time for us to go.
It's getting close to us.
All right.
And I just want to say, Kelsi, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Kelsi.
I really didn't give you as hard a time as I thought I was going to give you.
Nah, we were easy on you this time.
Oh, thanks.
I do want to say next week I want you to stay tuned, because next week we will get back to our Forgotten Fables segment, and we will be dealing with a movie that sounds something like,
"You have the ring, and I see your Schwartz is as big as mine."
Yes, if you know that line, you know the movie we'll be covering next week, and I am looking forward to discussing a great classic that we will resurrect from the past.
Spaceballs!
Love it. But with saying all that, I am Keith.
I'm Justin.
I'm Kelsi.
And we want to remind you that people are not projects, they're people. Just like you and me, so love them like you love yourself. and we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Peace. Punch, Captain Crunch.
Thank you for listening to the Forgetting Walls podcast. If you're subscribing to us on iTunes, leave us a rating to help us spread the word about this podcast. Remember, the only way this works is if you share your story. So be sure to visit the website and leave us a comment at forgettingwalls.com, or find us on Twitter at forgettingwalls and facebook.com/forgettingwalls.
Peace!
Bueller.